The 37-man committee set up by the People's Democratic Party, PDP, to decide where the party will zone its presidential ticket for the 2023 general elections will announce its decision at a meeting today. The PDP has been in a dilemma over where to zone its presidential ticket ahead of the general elections, with analysts warning that the issue of zoning might make or mar the main opposition party at the next year's poll. This was also members from the South and those from the North sought zoning of the presidency to their regions. The party, in a bid to resolve the disagreement, had set March 17 on March 17 set up a 37-man committee headed by the governor of Benue State, Samuel Otom, to find an amicable solution. Meanwhile, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar yesterday returned his completed expression of interest and nomination forms for the presidential ticket. Also, Godwin Obaseki of Edo State yesterday received some of the presidential aspirants of the PDP. They include former Senate President Dr. Bukola Saraki, Governor of Sokoto State Aminu Tambawa, Bauchi State Governor Bala Mohammed, and an economist Alhaji Mohammed Ayatuddin, while 4 PDP governors, Nyesom Wike of Rivers, his counterpart from Oyo State, Seyi Makinde, Abia State Governor Kezi Ekpeazu, and Governor of Enugu State, Ifeanyi Ugwuanyi, stormed Minna, the Niger State capital, to visit former military head of state General Abusalami Abubakar and former military president General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida at their Opil residence for consultation on the zoning of the 2023 presidential ticket of the party. The screening of PDP aspirants to choose the party's candidate for the upcoming general elections will take place from April 9 to 18, while appeals for aspirants will be resolved between April 14 and 21. And meanwhile, in a report this morning on the front page of this day newspaper, an analysis was done of all the potential presidential aspirants. The report has the title, Nigeria's Presidential Options, the Die is Cast, who among the aspirants will be chosen by Nigeria's changing electorates. A list was itemized below about various presidential potentials. And on the morning show this morning, we will be having an in-depth analysis by the morning show crew. Tundu, 2 stories. I'm sure the second one will be the bulk of the analysis as regards those presidential potentials.
I'll start with the first one, though.
Yes.
Can you explain to me, because I'm truly quite baffled, of this practice that we see of politicians seeming to hearken to the past? I never understand these trips to Minna. What for? It kind of reminds me of The Wizard of Oz. I've told you, right? You know that movie? It's a very old film. With the scarecrow that did not have a brain, the tin man that did not have a heart, and the lion who lacked courage, going up the yellow brick road to go to the Wizard of Oz to cure their problems. And they finally make it to the Wizard of Oz, only to find out that he was a scam. It was just a man behind a curtain pretending to be a wizard. This is what always comes to mind. As for the cover of this day, I like how they're hedging. I like the very careful choice of words. Presidential potentials in alphabetical order, just in case anybody starts to assume that this is some kind of endorsement from this day. It's not. But the use of the word potentials is interesting because some of the gentlemen on that cover haven't actually come out to declare any intention to run. Some of them have actually denied any, political aspirations, such as the central bank governor there, Godwin Emefiele, but he's still on the cover there as a possible, aspirant. We have former President Goodluck Jonathan. I've been asking you for exclusives, Dr. Abati. You've been holding out on me, so you don't want to tell me. And we have Atiku Abubakar. I think we'll start with him. I want to do it separately, PDP and APC. On the PDP side, there's obviously Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, the former vice president, who is a, political juggernaut here. But the issue with him so far is the issue of zoning, whether or not the presidential ticket of the PDP should be zoned to the north, to the south, or there should be an open contest, which I guess was one of the reasons why that group went to Minna for advice on that, because the Bukola Saraki, Bala Mohammed, and Aminu Tambawa group, who is also on this cover, have been trying to find a consensus candidate to present for the PDP. So the arguments in favor of zoning to the north for PDP are actually not entirely logical when you think about it. Their argument is that in the Fourth Republic, we had a Southwest president in the person of former President Olusegun Obasanjo for 8 years. Then we had Umaru Yar'Adua, late Umaru Yar'Adua from the north, from Katsina, for 2 years and change. And then we had former President Goodluck Jonathan for about 5 years and change. So as far as PDP is concerned, the North has only enjoyed, the privilege of governing Nigeria for less than 3 years. So to them, it's completely unfair. They feel that the South has benefited more from their zoning arrangement, which is actually a PDP convention that was introduced to this our political space by PDP. So they feel that the North has not benefited, and for them, it's fair that the ticket should go to the North, those who argue on that side. But those who argue against say that it's unfair to have, after an 8-year presidency from a Northwest President Muhammadu Buhari, to now remain in the North, so that PDP is not Nigeria. PDP is just a political party. So I guess we'll see where that zoning committee led by Governor Autumn decides to go with that. So there's Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, and the other, con, rather than a pro, that people mention with regards to him is that he's perceived as one of the old guard, and that, maybe a fresher, younger president might be better. On the other hand, he is an establishment figure because he is one of the old guard. And I guess if you're looking for a big name, like I said, a juggernaut, that it might take to unseat a ruling party. It has been done before in Nigeria, but it was extremely difficult. All kinds of strange bedfellows, as you call them, had to come together to unseat a ruling party. It's very difficult to do. PDP might think that it will be risky to put that in the hands of a neophyte, that you might want to just go with somebody tried and tested, like Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. I've talked about former Senate President Bukola Saraki. I just mentioned him. In his favor, he has that sort of youth-centric, youth-oriented, energetic sort of, public image, and he has really the brilliant idea that he's expressed that if he becomes president of Nigeria, his ministers of state will all be under the age of 40 years old, which I think is really, commendable. He was also Senate president during the not too young to run, so he has sort of that youth credentials. There's that in his favor. Working against him, he's from the North Central, so it's the North. And it seems unfair because the North Central has been overlooked as far as democracy goes. But you could also say that those two men that they went to visit in Minna were military heads of state from the North Central. So it's not as if they've never had a chance to rule Nigeria. They have. And then you also have Aminu Tambuwal from Sokoto State, that same issue. Should it be a northern president? He's also somebody who is seen as, he has the vitality, he has a charisma, he's built a name for himself as a former speaker. He's not, a neophyte at all, but he's also a northern candidate. You have somebody like Mr. Hayatuddin, a veteran banker, really respected in that space, but a comparative neophyte politically. He's also from the North. You have Governor Bala Mohammed, who has been a senator, he's been a minister of FCT, and now he's looking at, becoming president. He has the experience, he has a track record, but he's from the North. So if PDP decides to zone to the South, that rules him out. Now the Southeastern candidates. A lot of people feel that it's a huge injustice that the Southeast has not had a chance to rule Nigeria since our first president, Nnamdi Azikiwe, who was more of a ceremonial president. So the Southeast hasn't had a chance to really lead the administration of this country. And that's an argument that I personally find difficult to dismiss. If we're interested in justice, then you can't dismiss that argument. And I hope that we are as a country, because without justice, you can never really have peace. And what has often been said about the Southeast in the past is that, they want to rule, they want to govern Nigeria, but they don't come together, they don't come out. But that cannot be argued now because we have viable Southeastern candidates. We have former Senate President and former Secretary to the Federal Government, Pius Anyim. You can't dismiss somebody like that. He is from the establishment. He does have the experience. He does have a track record. You have former Governor Peter Obi, who really did prove his mettle as the governor of Anambra State. He can't be dismissed. He was on the Atiku Abubakar ticket for the 2019 election, and I think that ticket, it did perform really well, so he's now decided to step out of the shadow of Atiku Abubakar and go for it himself. You have pharmacist Sam Orambowa, who is, for me, a bit similar to to Mr. Hayatuddin in the sense that on the political scene, they might not really ring a lot of bells. But in his own case, he has been heavily involved in politics, just not in the forefront. But now he wants to step onto the stage. He's always been backstage. And you have a Dr. Anikwe, also from the Southeast. From the Southwest, we have one political candidate for PDP so far, and that is Chief Dele Momodu, who we'll be discussing later. Now, if zoning becomes a factor, it might be difficult to make a case to zone to the Southwest because we have had the presidency of Olusegun Obasanjo. We've had 8 years, going on 8 years now, with the vice president, Yemi Osinbajo. Yoruba people cannot really claim to have been marginalized now, can we? Now, we have on the South-South angle, we have Governor Nyesom Wike, who, well, I'm trying to find a word for it. I'll leave that. He's a stalwart of the PDP. I found the word, a nice neutral word for his relationship to the PDP. People might say something entirely different, that his influence on the PDP is overbearing. But so that just goes to show that he really can't be ignored in this conversation. But if it's a zoning situation, it will be difficult to argue for zoning to the South-South, which affects him and Governor Udom Emmanuel, because we have had the presidency of former President Goodluck Jonathan, whatever his antecedents with the PDP are, however he has supported them. But he has said that however the party decides to go, he will support the party. And then we have a lady, the one lady from the PDP, Oliver Tariela Diana. And I'm not sure what her antecedents are. I'm hoping that we'll find out a lot more about her, because it's always, for me, so inspiring when a woman decides to step forward with all the odds that we have stacked against us. It's really courageous of her, but we want to know more about her. And then obviously they're the APC candidates, but I'll let you handle that. I think I've been talking for ages.
Dr. Pati?
No, I just want to respond to certain issues. The first is zoning. The PDP is going to have a meeting today. The meeting was postponed from last week to today because last week the party could not reach a decision on the politics of zoning. And so the meeting has been postponed to today. The process for the formula for selection of candidates will begin in the PDP from about April 7 going forward. And so today's meeting is very crucial because today is April 5. Would the committee led by Governor Samuel Ortom be able to reach a consensus as to the decision on where, the presidency of the party should be zoned? I think it will be a very difficult situation. The party may come out, either divided from that meeting, or the party may just decide that, well, they have taken a decision that the candidate truly can come from anywhere. Because if you look at the profile of the candidates that have shown interest in the presidential race for 2023 on the platform of the PDP, they are from different parts of the country, from different zones, South-South, North-Central, Southwest, Northwest, and all of that. So the zoning politics is likely to be a make or mar issue for the People's Democratic Party. Hopefully, by the end of today, we would like to know what that is all about. Because if you look at it, take a candidate like Atiku Abubakar. Atiku Abubakar is from the Northeast, okay? Take a candidate like Dele Momodu. Dele Momodu is from the South-South, although he's ambidextrous. His mother is from the Southwest. His father is from the South-South, so he could claim both sides, just like Rotimi Amici, who can claim both South-South and also claim Southeastern heritage, because he's been saying that he's an Igbo man, and he can also represent the Igbo interest, because his name is Chibuke Amechi. He's in the APC. But you'll find some of these people, are crossing both paths. So as for the PDP, it will be interesting to see what they come up with today. Now, the story on the front page of, there was another issue that Tunu raised about people going to Mina. And why that is the case and all of that Wizard of Oz allegory. Well, the truth of the matter is that there is this general conception that there are some people in this country who can be easily classified as the owners of Nigeria. even if owners of Nigeria, as Dele Momodu used that phrase, maybe a bit too much of an exaggeration, because nobody should own any country. No country should be anybody's personal property. We are all stakeholders in this country. But I guess when Basharun Dele Momodu wrote that piece, what he was trying to allude to is the fact that there are some people who see themselves as kingmakers in Nigeria. And people who are seeking political offices, they necessarily go to them to pay homage. Because to ignore them may be at your own peril. And so in Mina, who do we have there? We have General Ibrahim Babangida, 80 years old, but people still go there to consult him, to seek his blessing. You have General Abdul Salami Abubakar, the last military general in charge of Nigeria before the effective transition to democratic rule. People go there to go and visit him. People go to General T.Y. Danjuma, one of the strongest military figures in Nigerian history. Okay, they go to him to seek their blessing. When they live there, they head straight to Abeokuta to go and meet retired General, now Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, former President, Olusegun Obasanjo, to seek his blessing. Because they know that these persons, yes, there's an informal side in Nigerian politics to the election process. If certain persons are perceived not to be behind you, then of course nobody would want to take you seriously. And that is why you find the expropriation of the Abiola name, because people try to attract influence and impact to their proposition. Now, to the story on the front page of this day, which is the third leg of my intervention. Now, if you look at it, this is a usual, this day tradition. And the introduction begins by saying that these are presidential options, right? Some of them have not publicly declared. Ibikunle Amosun, senator, his name is there, former governor of Ogun State, but I'm not aware that I've read anywhere that he has said that he's interested in the race. Kayode Fayemi, governor of Ekiti State, is also there. He has also not formally declared. President Goodluck Jonathan's name is there. President Goodluck Jonathan has issued a statement saying that he's not in the race. But there have been all kinds of stories out there saying that the APC is negotiating with him. He's setting mafia in the villa. He's talking to him, but he has not declared any interest. Timi Presiva has also not come out. Minister of State for Petroleum, to the best of my knowledge, he has not publicly declared that he's interested in the race. So you'll find some of those people there. So he said, the This Day editors are playing the role of persuaders. I hope not. Okay? Godwin Emefiele's name is also there. Godwin Emefiele has repeatedly said that, look, he has not declared any interest. That is God that chooses people who are in positions. But from the point of view of analysis, maybe perhaps the This Day editors, in their own reckoning, think that any of these persons, both those who have declared and those who have not declared, are possible options for Nigeria. If that is where they're coming from, then I can understand that. Now, the intro to that story also begins with the premise that out of the 18 political parties that are in Nigeria, only 8 out of them seem to be serious political parties. Well, those serious ones are not listed. And I guess that in concentrating only on the PDP and the APC options, the newspaper is saying invariably that the PDP and the APC are the dominant political parties and the race is between them. But however, there are also some other serious candidates in the race. Omoyele Sowore is running on another platform. Kingsley Moghalu is also part of the race. And there are some other persons who are running on other platforms. So what would be the assumption? Yesterday, we interviewed Senator Rabiu Kwankwanso, who is running on the platform of the NNPP. So from this initial, publication of presidential options, is the This Day board of editors telling us that these other persons do not quite matter because they don't stand a chance in the race. Okay, Tunu has done an extensive review of some of the individuals there. I will just take just a few. Take a man like Mr. Peter Obi. Peter Obi has been governor in Anambra State. He has the experience. He's articulate. He has shown a capacity that he understands the economy. He can crunch the numbers. He continues to cite the example of his record as governor of Anambra State. The integrity that he put on display, his ability to reach across, constituencies, not just in his state, but also across the country. And he has also had the experience of running alongside former Vice President Atiku Abubakar in 2019. So he's not new to the game. He knows the template. He knows what it means to run for an election. So he has this, these many strengths. However, his major weakness is how strong is he in pan-Igbo contest? Is he very popular among his own people? That would seem to be the major minus because, as they say, charity begins at home. But in terms of competence, I don't think there's anybody in Nigeria who would doubt his capacity. Now, if we move away from him, take Dele Momodu, who is going to join us shortly. Dele Momodu is a quintessential journalist, a good man, a bridge builder, a networker, a man who has given a new meaning to what he himself calls access journalism. He has made friends across all fronts. He's, as I said also, from the Southwest, from the South-South. His mom from the Southwest, Ile-Ife, his father from Hieme in Edo State. Okay? So he has that advantage. But does he have the same reach in the North? And does he have the money? Because this is about cash. Well, he has managed, I think, to get the form, 40 million naira. But beyond getting the nomination form, there's a lot more to politics. Can a Dele Momodu, who is an intellectual in his own right, be able to throw money around, even if that money is donated to him? Will he be able to throw it around? It may not accord with his value system. Now, again, still on that side, who else is there from the PDP? Governor Wike of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike. I think recently, Nyesom Wike of Rivers State made the point that whatever the party decides, he would abide by it. Because as far as he is concerned, he has managed to stay behind in the party and to support the party, to build the party, and that he will not leave the party, if he does not have his way. I think that expression of humility is a very good one. He's been a very high-profile, politician, and he has grown tremendously from being an aide to Rotimi Amechi, from serving as Minister of State for Education, and he has had 2 terms as governor of Rivers State. But his style is considered somewhat abrasive. And even in the People's Democratic Party, not too many people are very comfortable, with his abrasive style of reminding everyone that when the party was going to run into the ditch, he was the one that brought money. Behind his back, they say, well, is it his money? Is it not Rivers State money that he's using? Should he even be using Rivers State money to support his own political interests or the interests of the PDP? Okay, that's the way human beings are. But I think he has taken a pragmatic option that he will go with whatever, the party decides. There are persons in the party, in fact, who are saying that he's the one who is pushing the idea of, the party, the position of the president being zoned to the South-South. But he's a very smart guy. He's a very clever guy. I'm sure that whatever happens, he will adjust accordingly. Vice President Atiku Abubakar, yes, he has experience. He has a competence. He's been in the race for a very long time. And he probably wants to be like President Muhammadu Buhari, so that it will be said of him that he was a determined man, and that, because he was persistent, he got the ticket. But the issue is, it's about this zoning. Should the party still zone it to the north? He has age on his side, he has maturity on his side, but there are persons who will say, well, shouldn't he just allow the younger people to go onto the field, which is the position of his former aide, Kasim Afegwa. Now, Kayode Fayemi, the governor of Ekiti State, if I may just period very quickly to the APC side, the Vice President, Yemi Osinbajo, and some of those persons from the All Progressives Congress. The major problem they have, Emmanuel Udom is also, there. The major problem the APC candidates have will be the biggest fish in the list that has been published by this day newspaper. And that is Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, one of the original founders of the party, national leader, one of the national leaders of the party, who has made it very clear that he no longer wants to be a kingmaker. He wants to be king. And there's this, impression being created that there was an agreement that after President Muhammadu Buhari, the presidency of Nigeria, under the platform of the APC, will come to the Southwest. And Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, for more than a year, has positioned himself as a man who is there to take that particular crown. But he has issues. Those issues relate to age. Those issues relate to the source of his wealth, which people have been talking about. And then about his health. And then people raise the moral question that at his age, should he not allow some of these younger people who have shown interest in the matter to be the ones to run forward? But of course, he has a right, no matter how old people say he is, to say he's also interested in the matter. And he's been running the most colorful campaign so far. As the governor of the central bank, well, as I said, the governor of the central bank has not declared interest. But he's a technocrat. He has done very well as governor of central bank. What is disturbing is whether or not it is right for the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, not the governor of the Central Bank of the APC, to be seen to be involved in what appears to be partisan politics. I made this point yesterday. He himself has never admitted it up to this point. But if it happens at the last minute that he turns around and then he throws his hat publicly into the ring, personally, then the question will be raised about his own integrity. Because people will say, does it mean you've been lying to us all along, saying that you are just a professional doing your job? He's from the South-South. Well, will the thing be zoned to the South-South? I doubt. There are some other minorities that are there. Senator Bukola Saraki, yes, experience. He's been Senate president. He was a successful Senate president. He's been governor. He did well as governor. The agricultural program that he introduced in Kwara State, nobody has been able to sustain it, which is sad. Nobody has been able to reproduce it, even elsewhere, except maybe in Cross River State under Governor Donald Duke. Okay? But he has an issue of identity. People ask the question, is he from the Southwest or is he from the North Central? But maybe that is immaterial. But would they give him the ticket? With people like Governor Wike saying people who left the party, the PDP that is, cannot just come back and say they want to claim any authority within the party. Power Ayem, yes, he has experience. He's been Senate president. He's been secretary to the government of the Federation. He knows where all the corpses are buried in Nigeria, having served in those two strategic positions. But does he have the support also in the Southeast, and particularly in his home state of Ebonyi, where his own governor, Dave Umahi, is also doing long truth, beyond Ebonyi State to say that he wants to be a president of Nigeria, when he should just be happy that the Court of Appeal Enugu Division has ruled to keep him in that position. Well, I guess when the finish comes, there will be an opportunity to say a lot more about these options that the This Day Board of Editors have put on the front page.
All right, that's all on News Headline. We'll take a short break. When we return, we'll have Ruth Zudiri, Michael Wilson, Adeso Moro, Aaron Akejola give updates on Africa, global business, COVID-19 and partner activities across the globe. Stay with us.
Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Our dependable Rota Sadiri is here to give us an African business update. Good morning, Rota.
Good morning, Tundu. Good morning, Fai. Good morning, Doctor. So look, you remember yesterday we were talking about Mexico. I don't know, I feel like I'm doing a global fuel subsidy watch here. So remember Mexico halted subsidies in border towns with the United States because Americans are driving in to buy cheap fuel. It's happening also in Malaysia. So Singaporeans are driving into Malaysia in order to take advantage of subsidized fuel that's there as well. And the folks over, so you can see the map there and see how close they are. So essentially, fuel in Singapore is deregulated and sells for 4 times the amount that it does in Malaysia. So the authorities in Malaysia, they are saying they will fine any fuel stations up to about $474,000 for if they sell fuel to any cars that are registered outside of the country. So they're using a database to find out. So it's just, the study of economics and the rationing of resources, scarce resources, human behavior. It's really fascinating. We're all the same at the end of the day, whether you're in Nigeria, Mexico, or Singapore. To Nigeria, COVID testing labs have been raking in billions of naira based on research done by Business Day newspaper. Essentially, with respect to the amount of money that they've been making from testing. There's a table here, let's pull it up. Looking at, I believe, from October 2020 through to March 2022. These are the top 5 labs that have made some money here. Medbury Medical Services, 2.7 billion naira. 54 Gene, we interviewed, I think 54 Gene has been on the morning show and the Global Business Report. 2.4 billion naira they brought in. Based on the number of tests, so 60,000 tests for Medbury, 52,000 for 54 Gene. Clinical Lancet, they did 31,000. Everright. But here's something to notice. This is from October 2020 to March 2022, and an average price of about 45,000 naira per test. Tests were going for 150,000 from, I think, about February of 2020, and then it kind of averaged down as the increase of supply, the availability of tests spread out. So they've made, they've made quite a bit of money. I think overall it's like 26 billion or so or within that period for all the testing that's been noticed by folks over at the Business Day newspaper. But I think with the new, anyway, this one will bring us in with the latest. The jamboree might be over, but it does, when you think about capitalism, from disease to war, there is always someone profiting, which, it's just how it's the way of the world. The way of the world, right? To aviation, there has been an ongoing debate on hedging. This is the latest thing that airlines are looking at as to whether or not it can help them reduce fuel prices. Now, this is happening in Kenya. I understand Kenya Airways is looking at hedging it's aviation fuel, whereby it's almost like futures and forward trading with derivatives, where you buy fuel today for delivery later on, and you buy at that particular price. So essentially, it's hopefully if the price moves against you, you are hedged, you are protected. But the problem for Nigeria is the exchange rate. So it's priced in dollars, and if the exchange rate moves against you, then whatever savings you would have made from your hedge are wiped away in exchange rate depreciation. So that's what the airlines are debating right now. That's what a lot of folks are talking about with respect to whether or not hedging can work. Well, hopefully we should have the Chief Obiora, who's the chairman of United Nigeria Airlines, on the Global Business Report later at 11 o'clock. We're going to talk to him about hedging, the Spring Alliance, the agreements with NNPC and the legislators as to how much they'll be getting aviation fuel for, and so on and so forth. Still on aviation, Hadi Sirika, he's still on the national carrier. He's now said that Emirates apparently is going to partner, has said, I guess in principle, that they will partner with Nigeria to assist with the national carrier. Not sure what that means. Didn't really go into details. Do they give an airline? Are they going to give, technical transfer? I don't know what, but he is still steadfast on this matter. And then back to fuel subsidies again. Kenya, my second favorite African country. Their fuel marketers, I think, have just gone. They've just blown out of proportion. There is fuel scarcity in Kenya. Oil marketers say that they're being owed about 13 billion shillings. The government has not paid it. Kenya is saying that it's because of panic buying and that they will pay them. I think there was a supplementary budget that Uhuru Kenyatta just approved, and I think he approved like 34 billion shillings to be paid. But they are doing what they can to try and, you know, subsidize this because it's an election year. They want to keep people happy, but it's costing the Kenyan treasury a lot of money. And it's just essentially what you're seeing here in Nigeria that's happening.
I mean, the same problem.
Right?
Same problem, exactly what we're seeing here.
Yeah.
And what are the solutions? The solutions for Nigeria will be to build a refinery. And it segues into what is happening with aviation fuel prices.
Right.
We need to build refineries. We need to be able to turn up our own level of aviation fuel. Most importantly, the state of our forex. Qatar, for Christ's sake. The dollar to Qataris rial, as it's called, is 3-to-1. How do they hedge against, you know, fluctuation in their currency? They've got a buoyant economy, as it were. They have enough produce and enough cash to be able to defend their currency. But we don't have that here. Our reserves keep plummeting. We have wasted all of our resource, and at the same time, the market forces does not enable full production. So you cannot enjoy the good of the land. And going back to the pharmaceutical, what's it called?
COVID test, the labs.
COVID test,
Yeah.
They made tons of money. All of them. Not even only them. The hospitals. I know hospitals that during COVID, they took loans from a certain bank, they paid back the loans, now they have 3-4 branches.
Well, that's a good gamble.
So it was a windfall for them this
right.
period.
Yeah.
And it's not only here, it's everywhere in the world. When UK released their GDP numbers last year, I was in England then, guess what showed up the GDP numbers? COVID tests. It's the same everywhere in the world. I just hope we're able to optimize this and utilize. Now we've gotten some infrastructure in because of COVID.
Private laboratories making up to about 26 billion, as you reported, you know, quoting Business Day. The figure is probably higher.
Yeah.
The average Nigerian hearing that will say, yes, we've been vindicated. Because the belief of the average Nigerian was that part of the economics of COVID-19 protocols process in Nigeria is that some people ended up making a fortune. Girlfriends who got contracts.
I knew that was coming. I knew that was coming.
Yes, you know, people who got contracts to supply therapeutics, to supply that, and then private laboratories that were also doing testing. You know, so, you know, here, data is not always very exact.
Right.
So if Business Day, with their rigor of the process that they put into it, had been able to say 26 billion, it means some people, you know, smiled while some other people were agonizing when COVID was at its peak. But now, the honeymoon is over.
Right.
The Presidential Steering Committee in Nigeria has put out a different protocol, which says, you know, for inbound travelers, you know, compulsory PCR testing is no longer required.
Right.
You know, even the wearing of mask is also now optional. So, well, that is the reality as is. But I don't think we have enough time. I was going to ask you about the National Bureau of Statistics report. That foreign direct investment in Nigeria, as at last year,
2021,
went down, or was it 2021? Went down to as much as about $698.3 million. It used to be about 2-point-something billion. It used to be about 4-point-something billion. So why is it that foreign direct investors don't also always want to come here? Manufacturers Association of Nigeria tells us that it's because of insecurity. It's because of the devaluation of the naira. It's because of the poor business environment. You know, it's because there's no electricity. It's because people will be kidnapped. So some states, about 10 of them in the last 3 years, have not even smelled any kind of foreign direct investment. So we have capital inflow problem. We have foreign exchange crisis. The man who is going to be Nigeria's next president in 2023 has a very serious task on his hand. I hope he has the brain to be able to even understand the basic issues. Whoever he is.
22 states didn't get FDI.
Yes, I said so. 22 states did not get in the last 1 year. 10 did not get in 3 years.
Wow. 22 states.
And these are states with challenge of insecurity. If you go and elect as president somebody who has no brain, will be in a worse situation.
Be in a brainless situation.
On that bleak note, thank you, Reuters. Moving on now to more business update. Michael Wilson joins us from London. Good morning, Mr. Wilson.
Good morning. First of all, Asia Pacific stocks. Now, given that China and Hong Kong are closed for holidays, not a lot actually going on there. The Reserve Bank of Australia has kept the cash rate target unchanged. Oil's up very, very slightly. But generally, a fairly mixed picture as far as Asia's Pacific is concerned. The investors may be, this is a good one. Investors, according to some people, may be slightly jumping the gun on Chinese stocks. Now, they've got very favorable once again towards China because of what appears to be a slight softening and improvement in relations between the US Securities and Exchange Commission and the Chinese authorities. People are saying that don't do it straight away. Watch and see how this develops, because there's many a slip twixt cup and lip, as we know. Russia's economy is beginning to crumble, according to various forecasts. Their PMI figures, which we had, or the activity, is actually slowing quite considerably as material shortages and also delivery delays weigh heavily on factories there. As far as the US is concerned, stock futures flat in overnight trading, a bit of a rally yesterday at the beginning, in inverted commas, of the month, or the first full week trading of the month. The overnight action saw a tech-led rally, which saw the Nasdaq up 1.9, and Elon Musk declared a 9.2% passive stake in Twitter. I'm going to come on to that. Twitter shares up 27% after Elon Musk said that he's taken a 9% stake in the social media company. He now owns 73 million shares in Twitter. I think you can expect a bit of an upending as far as Twitter's concerned. He was very critical of it because he didn't think he was giving vent to free speech, or the principles of free speech. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But the interesting thing about Elon Musk is what they say in this country about him is that he's never spent a penny on advertising, nor has Tesla, or he hasn't. What he does is he actually does it all himself. So you listen to Musk, and you take your choice there. As far as the EU's concerned, President Macron of France is calling for a complete ban on Russia and oil. He's joining the Biden condemnation of the war atrocities that are gradually being revealed. The trouble is that if Russia and Poland do that, for example, they're going to find it very difficult to explain to their voters or their populations why energy is going to be rationed and going to be so short, because they rely so much on Russian oil exports. Here's a strange one. I don't really understand this myself, but Britain has announced plans to mint its own NFT. That's a non-fungible token. In other words, what it does is that you can buy a part of a painting. You don't actually own it, but you can buy a part of it, and it's all very digital. It's all part of some kind of move headed by Rishi Sunak to make London the sort of cryptocurrency hub of the world. I think it'll be pushed to do that, quite honestly, because in my view, America has gone right ahead on that, basically. I mean, but it's part of this ongoing plan, and it could be about stable coins as well, which are linked to commodities like gold and so on, are supposed to be not as volatile as Bitcoin. I really, have to be convinced about that. Media news here, and Channel 4, which is an odd one, really. It's a sort of hybrid company. It's owned by the state, but it's supported by commercial advertising. It's going to be sold off by the government. It will only raise £1 billion, but it's interesting part of the media landscape at the moment. Big television companies and up against the big streaming things like Netflix and Amazon and so on. And where will actually Channel 4 go? There's the usual cry about it not having being part of the public policy network and so on. I suspect it probably is, and I suspect that people will insist that it has its primetime news shows as it does at the moment, but we'll see about that. Nothing's going to happen for quite a while about that. As far as clean power is concerned, now the government's going to outline its strategy, at least publicly. We're going to hear about it on Thursday, and what the clean power groups are saying is that it would be quite a good idea if planning was somehow eased so that they could actually build their wind farms, etc., where they want to, i.e. onshore rather than offshore and so on. That's got a long way to go. The airline industry, once again, you have to laugh, actually, if you have a sense of humour about this. So Easter is the big getaway period for this country because it's seen to be the beginning of the summer. It's not really. It usually snows at Easter. But there we are. I mean, let's not get too picky about that. But there are lots of Easter flight cancellations from the likes of Ryanair and British Airways because loads of staff are off because of, you've guessed it, COVID. Oil moves slightly higher in Asia trading. I got about 108 for Brent and about 104 for WTI. Again, they jumped for a prospect of more Western sanctions on Russia. That's really what all that's about. How that actually comes to fruition in terms of a market driver, we won't really know until the end of tomorrow. That is the global view.
All right, Michael, two things. Number one, Rishi Sunak is so ambitious. And the funny thing about Rishi is that he's so ambitious, he doesn't know how to solve problems straight in his front. He can't provide solutions for that. He's talking about NFTs. Does Britain have the power load to code NFT and non-fungible tokens? Because it requires a lot of power. And most countries like Russia, where you call this from, they produce power from cheap coal. But Britain is having problems with Sizewell and Hinkley and the likes. Where is he going to get all of this from? Is this his priority in the first place? Number two, I'd like to talk about Elon Musk getting 9% stake in Twitter. Isn't something that SEC should look at? This is the same man that his tweets had to be pre-approved by SEC. Because Elon Musk having some level of ownership of Twitter, I don't trust a pod-smoking billionaire. He can set the world alight. Michael?
Yeah, and so your question?
Yeah, shouldn't SEC check what Elon Musk is doing with Twitter?
Oh, I see. Yeah.
He's
so
a
you mean the
pod-smoking
SEC?
billionaire.
Sorry, I thought you talked about SEC. I didn't know what that was. You mean the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission? Yeah, of course they should. If I were them, I would have had my. I've been feeling Elon Musk collar a long time ago. I don't think it's right and proper to be talking up companies via Twitter and so on. And he's basically put two fingers up. I think you can expect an investigation about it, quite honestly. Yeah, absolutely. As far as Rishi Sunak's concerned, as I said to you, I'm very sceptical about whether London can become a hub of cryptos and cryptocurrencies and NFTs and all the rest of it, and even stable coins if you really want to go down there. I think that the world has moved away from that, and the debate is still not actually solved as to whether to have fiat currencies or to have cryptocurrencies. That would, or maybe they'll exist in a kind of hybrid version together. But you're absolutely right; it takes an enormous amount of power to make these kind of things, and I think it's a joke. It's not been thought through at all.
Well, but you realize that the statement that was put out also said that the Treasury, the UK Treasury, is aware of the environmental concerns with regard to carbon emissions coming from mining. How they are going to address that, I guess the devil is in the details. But the major point that was put forward by the Treasury is that, look, this says stable coins, and I was wondering, what is the significant difference between stable coins and cryptocurrencies? You know, the argument is that stable coins are, not as volatile as cryptocurrencies. But that's not the evidence that is out there. But the major idea is that it looks like, Britain has accepted, digital assets, digital coins as an inescapable reality to create jobs. They try to point out. That's one. Second, as for the disruptions in flights, yes, there is a connection with COVID. We're told that many staff, are calling in sick, and as a result of that, British Airways in particular has had to cancel a number of flights, over 32 on Monday alone. But what are the rules? Because the people who suffer at the end of the spectrum are the travelers. So what are the rules? Are they going to get compensated? And for how long do you think that this will last? Would there be a relaxation after the holiday season? This is Easter season, and people are, pulling out, pushing out. Everybody going everywhere since they've been at home for more than 2 years. And now the UK has adopted a policy of living with COVID.
Okay, what I think is that the airlines are actually facing a crunch point right now. I mean, they're going to get they do get very, very busy over Easter. As I said, it seemed to be a big getaway time for everybody. And unfortunately, COVID is still, or at least the parts of COVID that are not quite as severe as COVID, are still rising in various parts of the world. Apparently, I mean, I was talking to some friends in London yesterday, and they say that in their district, it's simply being brought home from schools once again. So the whole thing is starting again. It's not as severe as COVID was in the past, but it is actually, the Omicron variant is certainly hitting quite a few people. So I think that what will happen is that there is an enormous amount of pull on airlines right now. They weren't giving extra flights over Easter. They'll now have to pull back on that. And you're absolutely right. I suppose things may get back to more normal once the holidays are over, as they often do. But I think that living with this is going to be a major challenge for employers. As far as stablecoin is concerned, again, I honestly, you probably know more about it than I do. I really, I'm not of the generation that particularly feels comfortable with cryptocurrencies and the rest. It may be that they have to be dealt with. It may be that the government sees having its own currency might be good, because it shows that it can actually see where its loans and its loan guarantees and its benefits are actually going, and the fact that they can't be spent frivolously, but they have to be spent on benefits. That may be joining up parts of the financial system. At that point of view, I think it's quite a good thing. But as I said, I'm very sceptical about whether the UK could adopt any kind of role, given the United States and indeed Russia and indeed China is so far ahead.
Anyway, thank you, Mr. Wilson. Thank you very much indeed.
All right, for updates on COVID-19 pandemic, Adeswa Mara is here with us. Great to have you, Adeswa. Morning.
Good morning. Great to be here, Rufai. Good morning, Tundu. And good morning, Dr. Bati.
Morning.
Morning. Well, over 11 billion doses of COVID-19 vaccines have now been administered worldwide, with China accounting for at least 3.2 billion doses of those numbers, or 3.2 billion of those numbers so far. Well, it's followed by India, the EU, US, and Brazil. These countries are ranked by the number of doses administered and not the percentage of vaccine coverage in their countries. Well, that's according to the Johns Hopkins University tally. We also have over 494 million coronavirus infections, with at least 6.1 million deaths so far. And here in Nigeria, as the nation continues to revise its COVID-19 curbs, the government says it will continue to follow the science in responding to the pandemic. Well, Dr. Ifedayo Adetifa, who is the head of the Nigeria CDC, made this known yesterday on Newsnight when he was asked about the restrictions that were lifted for some international travelers yesterday. He also had something to say about testing, COVID testing in Nigeria. He says the country is not scaling back. Well, let's listen to him.
We have a weekly sort of assessment of where we are, and we are actually responding to our data, which is why for a long time when people have been saying, oh, so country is doing that, or this country is doing that, we've never really responded to that. And I like what Adeswa said in the narrative, which is that there's no one-size-fits-all approach to responding to the pandemic. We have always followed the recommended risk-based approach in terms of how we decide what happens to the country, and we've responded to that. So yes, in the countries that have a higher vaccination coverage, they've let go of restrictions. But again, the interesting thing is that those countries are seeing an increase in number of cases, and yes, there's been some decoupling of cases from admissions and severity. But the truth is that we have also seen some decoupling from cases and severity, which yes is not entirely due to vaccination coverage, but it is there and it needs to be responded to. We have not lifted mask mandates. What we have said is at the moment, we think you should, if you're outdoors, use your discretion to decide whether to use a mask or not. So if you're outdoors and it's still very crowded, there are lots of people around you, you might estimate your risk to say, look, I think I'm better off with my mask on. But as far as you are indoors, as Dr. Mukhtar said in that press conference, if you are in the indoor space, in the mall, what we call sort of the traditional sort of public spaces, we recommend you should still use your mask, which is why people still ask you to use your mask if you are going into the mall or into the supermarket. Some of the other things that have changed in terms of the public health safety measures is, yes, the restrictions that you previously had on occupancy in church and in gatherings like
Dr. Adetifa making some clarifications on Nigeria's COVID-19 curbs yesterday. Well, away from Nigeria generally, let's speak to the epicenter. And I know COVID. Road to Zojuri has been speaking about testing this morning, guys. Well, Lagos State says it has conducted 1.16 million COVID-19 tests since the start of this pandemic. And this is almost 1/3 of the entire tests conducted in the country. The Lagos State government actually has conducted 80% of this test in private labs. And so you can imagine why those figures are adding up when Rotus speaks about them. The Lagos State Commissioner for Health, Professor Akin Abayomi, was given the state's COVID-19 update for March 20th to March 30th. In the space of those 10 days, he says the state conducted 17,487 tests. He also said that the test positivity rate for Lagos at the moment is 1.9%. He added that there are 165 active coronavirus cases in communities across the state, while there's only one person or one case in an isolation center in the state. To the U.S. very quickly, where the senators yesterday announced the deal of about $10 billion coronavirus aid package. This is to provide for additional aid for domestic testing, vaccination, treatment efforts, but they did not include $5 billion in funding for global vaccination efforts. The agreement, again, requires that at least $5 billion be set aside for therapeutics, while $750 million will go for research and clinical trials to prepare for future variants in the U.S. The remaining funds will be used for vaccines and testing. And finally, I know Michael Wilson touched on this a bit. I hope it did, talking about cancellation of flights in the UK as people prepare for the Easter holidays. Well, EasyJet and British Airways have had to cancel hundreds of flights because of the high levels of COVID-19 infections among their staff. The data from the ONS, which is the Office of the National Statistics in the UK, says that last week alone, as many as 1 in 13 persons or 13 people have tested positive for COVID-19. It's the highest we've seen in a while. And some scientists have cited the removal of restrictions as well as reversion to pre-pandemic behaviors with little or no mask wearing as responsible for these high numbers we're seeing in the UK. Back to you guys.
Well, thank you, Adesoa. We don't seem to have more time. Our guest is already waiting. We'd like to thank you very much.